Welcome to the Matadore Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Berg. Today, we've got an incredible guest, Daniel Zimmerman with Atlas Demolition. Daniel started his career working with remediation and demolition companies. From there, he furthered his experience with structural repair companies before starting Atlas Demolition. His expertise and commitment to excellence are the driving forces behind his demolition company's success. Daniel, thank you for joining us. Thanks for being with us. Really excited to have this conversation. I've followed you on social media for a couple years. Hopefully you followed me as well. I know a little bit about your company, but I don't know much about your story. How did you get started? And it's not every day somebody wakes up and they're like, I'm gonna own a demolition company. How did this all get going?
Yeah. And thanks for having me. I appreciate the time. Definitely followed you over the years as well. So it's nice to finally get to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I will say, I don't really think I woke up one day and said I want to own a demolition company either. It just kind of happened. So I did work in more of the restoration side of things in the past. So my background was kind of staffing and restoration. So two completely different industries. I did work for a company that did some structural repair as well. And I knew I wanted to do my own thing. I didn't really know what that was going to be. It ended up being demolition. I had a lot of contacts from working in the restoration industry, and specifically, I knew there was a need for asbestos work.
Okay.
We never had good contacts. It seemed like, anytime we had a job that had asbestos, nobody had like a good recommendation. And working with subcontractors, kind of my thought was, okay, if you just do what you say you're going to do and show up when you say you're going to show up, that's half the battle. So that was kind of the approach to getting started. And honestly, when I started, I kind of expected it to be more of a work on the side type deal. I had a young daughter at that point, and so my first job ended up being a commercial race shop,
Okay.
and so from there it just escalated. And it was not long where I had to dive in, all the
It
way.
is, I started my first company at 27. And I remember going out on the road and just being like, I want to help people. Right. And then all of a sudden you're helping people, but it's too much for you to do yourself. And then you're like, oh, I got to hire this person. I got to hire that person. Like I didn't want to have a big company. I just wanted to help people and talk to people about demolition work. I'm one of those people that grew up in that industry. Uh, What I didn't tell you before when we had this call, I also worked for a concrete restoration company for a couple years. So
Gotcha.
we have a very similar background in that regards. The waterproofing and the partial depths and the full depths and the balconies and the parking garages and all that stuff, right? But one of the things that I've always found in this is this respect for the trades. Like this is hard work. This is something that even in this new day and age of AI and software advances and all these really cool, fun things, you still have to physically go out and do the work, right? So what do you guys do in such a hard business like demolition, right? Whether it's the big excavators or, small skid steers or anything like that. What do you guys do that helps bring people in, right? Bring talent into the company and keep talent, right? That's a big problem that a lot of people are having.
Yeah. So for us, we really look at the people. And so we have a family atmosphere in our office and with our team. I think everybody here has a pretty high level of respect for one another. And so, we've got our core values. We really want to be the the company that people remember. Like, people that work with us, like, we want to leave them with a good memory of us and how the
Yeah.
work was done and us following through. So ours is a big focus on, one, having a team environment, a family environment, and two, we want to try to invest in our people as well. If
Yeah.
somebody's got a goal of theirs and it can kind of align with the business, or in some way we can help them get there, we want to do that. If somebody's maybe they're driving one of the trucks and they want to get their CDL, we'll look into that and see if we can get a plan for them to do that. If somebody wants a special license for whether it's asbestos, equipment operating, whatever the case is. We want to have people that grow with us.
That's that's amazing because that's not you don't see that all the time, right? It's a lot of times this can be such a transient business with
Mhm.
people, right? It can be, oh, I've got a project here at this time, right? We can bring a couple people in for this job, right? And then, so we don't have a lot of work for right now, so we're gonna hold off. And it sounds like you guys really care about the people and the team, and probably helps for retainage, right? Of keeping the same people around consistently, and that probably has led to some good company growth.
Yeah, it definitely does. And we face the same thing because, especially with demolition, the scheduling is insane. But you're always the first one in. Everybody else is waiting on you, so there's typically a very short window. And I mean, I've priced out jobs from a year before, and they call me out of the blue, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, we're ready to get started next week. Are you available?" So we're always, it seems like there's times where we're steady, but typically we are way too busy and need more people,
Yeah.
or now we're slow and then it's going to get really busy again. So we try to be conscious of that. And we know our guys are more often than not hitting overtime. So when we do have a slow period, we try to at least keep them busy, whether
Yeah.
it's organizing at the office or whatever the case. We try to make sure that nobody's getting hurt from the slow period.
Everybody's got their secret sauce, right? What do you guys do that really separates you all on the job, right? You guys have some great way of attacking the scheduling of the physical work, right? You guys have had said at the beginning, I've kind of follow you. It's funny we've crossed paths on social media a bunch of times, but have never actually had a conversation, right? But
Yeah.
I've seen this growth in your company, which is amazing. I love what you guys do from a social standpoint and from a marketing standpoint. But like, what separates you guys from everybody else that's in your area? What do you do differently that really sets you apart besides your people?
I think it's our approach with the customers themselves, with the general contractor, the building owner, whoever it is. My conversation with people is typically like, "Hey, we want to be an extension of your company. So whatever the main goal is, like we're all a team.
Yeah,
We've got our own goal in demolition, but we want to make sure we're working with the other trades on site. We're all working as a team because it can get pretty hectic, and there can be a lot of tension on sites when you're dealing with other groups, and maybe one group is waiting on another for XYZ. And so we try to be team players with, not only our internal staff, but everybody on the job sites. It
yeah,
just makes things a lot smoother. There's a lot of give and take with that. And we've got to have that mindset. And also we try to be flexible. There's demolition in particular, there's things that are unforeseen. It happens on almost every job site, regardless of how many plan sets you have. You never know how something was built or what they did here and there, and you just can't see it. So we try to go above and beyond for our GCs and clients. And if something pops up, we're fair with them.
yeah,
We don't want to do free work, but sometimes if it's truly not their fault, not our fault, like we can be flexible to where we care more about the long term relationship than individual circumstances.
yeah. So what's like a big learning lesson that you've had? You've started this business, you've grown this business, right? So you don't wake up one day saying, I want to have a demolition company with all these employees, right? It's grown here. So what's like a key learning lesson that's come that you could say, you know what, this really changed the way that I go about the business.
Yeah, couple things there, and that's a really long list, but I'll do some of the highlights. So the first and I'll say this, so demolition is one of those things where, like, everybody, including myself, think, "Oh, yeah, that's it's not too complicated. You go in, you break it, clean it up, that's it." It is an extremely complex business, and it's on a small scale level, like, if you're going in a house ripping out drywall, yeah, that's not super complicated. But as you graduate to different jobs and different scopes of work, the jump of knowledge required to do that, it's drastic. And there's so many resources needed to get jobs done efficiently. And unless you're in the industry and have done it long enough, you just don't know those things.
Yeah.
So I had to do a ton of research, throughout my jobs, when I was taking on new scopes of work just to keep going. Um, you know, I'll give a good example. The first time I tore down a house, it was not a good, it, it was a good learning experience. I'll say that it
Not
wasn't a
not a
good.
good financial experience.
Not a good financial experience. There's things like separate materials where you have different places you take different materials that I didn't have a good enough understanding. And sometimes it's just you've got to know where to go. And I didn't have the contacts yet. I hadn't done enough to really understand, the timeline of things and what all goes into it. So there's little things that if you overlook, they can make a big wave.
Yeah.
So yeah, resources is really the main thing. Like you have to have your resources nailed down to be successful.
Just give me like a big win. Like what was a project that you did that was, you went in and you're like, this is a little bit outside of my comfort zone, but you just you nailed it, right? I'm sure there's got to be one that comes to top of mind that you're like, man, we crushed it on this one.
Yeah, I would say so we did some work up in the Asheville area for Hurricane Helene.
Yeah.
And it was multiple sites. We did, I think, 9 in total different properties. It was so government regulated work. There's asbestos involved. So, asbestos adds 100 pages of extra stuff that you have to look at, consider, and do.
Very
Um,
complex.
yeah, complex. You've got 100 different people looking at what you're doing. There's paperwork for everything. Everything's just more complicated. So with that, we had a timeline that we had originally discussed, and we found out later on that that timeline was not quite accurate. And so the project was almost cut in half as far as our timeline to complete the work.
Wow.
Um, and so it was one of those things where going into it, we kind of had to gauge because another thing about the mountains is you got to think of the logistics of everything. I'm in Rock Hill, South Carolina. We're right near Charlotte. I've
Yeah.
got 10 different landfills around me. So if I need to go here, 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 in the mountains, you've got certain roads that are still not operational. So there's just a lot of hurdles there. And then we had some back roads that they actually had to cut roads out for us to get access to some of these properties. So there's just a lot of unknowns. And so we're a little hesitant. We did a lot of planning ahead of starting the project. And I always like to over communicate up front, and I'd rather under promise and over deliver. And
Yeah.
that's what we did. When we talked about the timeline, I was like, I don't know how realistic that is. Like, we'll do everything we can. And we actually ended up well ahead of the timeline. And so they added more properties throughout the project.
To kind of bring the conversation full circle, right from the beginning, you said, what separates you guys is how you treat your people, right? And the core values and the culture that you've created. And when you come across a project like that, I'm sure relying on your people and everybody having the same mission and vision of what this needs to be and same core values makes that happen significantly faster. If you've got to bring in people that don't really understand how you guys work and how you guys operate as a team and how you really care about the people with your organization, makes it harder if there's some like outsiders and there's some turnover. But if you have those people, I'm sure that made that process significantly easier. Just bringing it all together.
Yeah, it definitely makes a huge impact. And just an example of that, we had a contract hauler moving one of the pieces of equipment because there were just a lot of moving parts on that job. And so I think my guys let me know that it was like 11:30 at night. There was a piece of an excavator getting moved, and the outside hauler ended up clipping a bridge. Wasn't didn't damage the bridge or anything, but it was just the smallest piece on the excavator that it wouldn't have been operational. So we had to pull our resources. They were there probably till 1 in the morning, fixing that piece so that we could get up and running again the next morning at 8 a.m.
Wow. Everybody coming together.
Yeah.
So what's one piece of advice you'd give to somebody that wants to be in the demolition business or even just wants to join it, right? Somebody that wants to come into the trades, come into this business. What's one piece of advice you'd give or one thing you'd want to tell them and kind of explain to them about what you guys do and how you do it?
Yeah. So I would say the first thing I would say, it's not for the faint of heart. It's a tough but rewarding business. It's tough in the sense that it's chaotic, it's tough work. But it's rewarding in the sense that you get to be a part of some really cool projects. You get to do some really cool things and learn skills that, like the things that I've gotten to do with different saws, electric equipment, all kinds of different scopes of work that we've had. It's been a really cool learning experience. Plus, demolition is just fun. Like, taking equipment and wrecking a property, it's fun. The
Yeah.
cleanup, not so much, but it is fun work. It's hard, but it's fun and it's exciting.
Yeah.
Just, you know, like I said before, you just have to learn how to be resourceful in it.
Absolutely. All right. So I want to off the cuff, I want to try something a little different. I don't think this really happens with a podcast host, right? But what's a question that you would ask me? Right? I've asked all these questions. I've learned so much about you in the last, 17 minutes or so about how you started the business and what Atlas does really well and kind of some key learnings and what separates you, some of the technology that you guys have. What's a question you have for me?
Yeah. I would say, you've obviously been around the contracting world, construction world for some time now. What are some of the biggest lessons you learned throughout your journey?
Man, I would start it the same way that you started yours, that there's way too many. There's way too many, right? I think the first one, first and foremost, is people drive everything, right? No matter what business you're in, whether you're in restoration, whether you're in demo, whether you're an electrician or a plumber, you work for an equipment rental company, right? If you're involved in the trade somehow, some way, either directly or from a third party that supports it, the people is what really drives it and the interactions. And I have found that people that operate with high integrity, those are the ones that you really can do a lot of work with. I think you alluded to it is the trades are not for the faint of heart,
Mhm.
right? There's a lot of chaos that can go on, right? And sometimes you have a machine that clips a bridge, right? But if you're surrounded by people with high integrity, you kind of rally together. You understand that, hey, we've got a job to do, and these are the things that need to happen in order to move this project and move the country forward. Right? This is just what has to get done. Right? So I think I certainly have learned that people are at the core of all this stuff, and then um, the other thing is I think that the really successful organizations just give their people the right tools for the job, right? Make sure that they're operating as safely as possible, right? As efficiently as possible, communicating well. And I think when you do those things, when you surround yourself with people that have high integrity and you give the right tools for the job and you do things as safely as possible and efficiently as possible, you don't really like try to cut corners because there's a lot of people that are out there that try to cut corners and that never ends well, right? I think that's a real recipe for success, and I've seen that with the really good organizations that I've come across. They do those things exceptionally well.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. You know, it, there's pieces of equipment that I wish when I first started I had a clue what they were because they would have made my life so much easier.
Yeah,
But yeah, I agree completely. It's you've still got the people at the heart of the mission that really make it work.
100%. Well, Daniel, I really appreciate it's been 21 minutes already. I can't believe it's been like I could keep going forever, but I really appreciate you taking the time today. This has been fantastic. I hope that this is not the last time that we get to interact like this because we haven't done this before after so many years of kind of following each other from afar. So I really do appreciate you taking the time this afternoon to come on and talk with me and let me pick your brain a little bit and um, just keep doing exactly what you guys are doing. It's amazing to watch from far. I love it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate the time. It's great to, catch up and talk, and I'm sure we'll be talking again.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for watching this episode of the Matadore Podcast, where every week we sit down with the people actually doing the work, the contractors, operators, and the innovators building and creating the physical things that make our world move. However, this conversation hit you, whether it's something you're going to try on your next job or just a different way of seeing the industry, that's exactly why we built this show. If you want more of that, hit subscribe. New episodes are on their way every month. Real conversations with real people about real equipment on real job sites.